We are living in a very, very strange time, aren't we? It's not a bad time. It's a very strange time. Even the bad is strange. It's not your typical, normal. In fact, I wonder why it's even called a war. Is it a war? If it is, it's not a war against Hamas. It's a war against evil. Because Hamas is just a word. It's what it represents that is the issue. So I picked up a book, a compilation of all the Rebbe's talks on the problems in the Middle East. I opened it up at random. It was a thick book. I opened it up at random, and I started reading, and it sounded like such clear, sound advice on what Israel should do and how Israel should. But then I looked at the date. It's 1978. It's as if it was written yesterday. Same issue, same problem, same attitude, same mistakes. It's like, how does this? So two things. First of all, that the Rebbe was so clear way back then already on what the problem is. And number two, nothing changes. There have been a number of battles, a number of confrontations since then, and it's still the same problem. What is this? What's going on? Before I continue with my monologue, where I do all the talking, I want to invite you to a VIP session, a Zoom session, in which we get together to actually have a conversation and discuss all things Jewish, all things holy, all things healthy. So click on the link below and join us where we can have a two-way conversation. The good news is that there is some change in Israel's reaction and approach that is positive, that is encouraging, that is promising. The fact that they will not accept the ceasefire, which they always did in the past, this is good news. The fact that they will not accept a few hostages being released, as if this is some kind of a chess game, that's new, that's different. And that caught the enemy by surprise. They thought for sure as soon as they start losing, they'll have a ceasefire. That it's not happening is shocking to them. So of all the different things that people have said about the Rebbe, world leaders and great people who were in awe of the Rebbe, I think it was Netanyahu.
Shut our notifications, that'll be a good idea.
Is that true? I think it was Netanyahu, when he was interviewed about the Rebbe, who said the Rebbe never took on an issue that wasn't the issue of the moment. He was never distracted by secondary or incidental issues that come up. People get very busy with it and lose sight of the main issue. So Netanyahu says the Rebbe, when he zeroed in on an issue, it was always to the core and to the most important issues of, like, for example, in the 60s, I believe it was, the Rebbe said to Israel, keep your eye on Iran. Don't get distracted. Everybody's making noises, everybody's threatening. Keep your eyes on Iran. That's where the problem is. And that's where the problem is. So the good news is, and this really is good news, Iran only backs winners. Hamas is losing right now, So Iran is not giving them another penny. You think they'd double down on it and send them even more? No, 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 no. You're a loser. We don't want to have anything to do with you. And that's the end of Hamas. Question now is, what happens when Hamas is gone? It's a big issue. But thank God, not a dangerous one. So, although the pain is still there and there are still losses happening, but basically the war is over, Hamas is finished. Not only because Israel is going to kill them, but because Iran doesn't want them anymore. Never did. But if they could use them to win a battle, they would use them. Now they can't use them, so no interest whatsoever. And that's true also of the rest of the world. When those experts were saying this can turn into World War III, it'll spread to the other, nobody is interested. Nobody's interested. If Hamas was winning, they would all support it. Hamas is losing, they don't know, they never heard of them, they don't want to see them. They're completely unpopular. And that's one of the things that Rebbe was so ahead of the time or beyond, even in 67, in the Six-Day War, where people were afraid Russia will get involved and America will have to get involved. And the Rebbe was saying, they're not going to get involved. Nobody cares that much about Palestine. Now we see. So the tide has turned, and as a result, you're going to see all the anti-Semitism around the world is suddenly going to disappear. It's no longer a winning cause, so who cares? But let's look at something a little even more encouraging. We know that Mashiach is coming, and that it has to happen very, very soon. Realistically, naturally, can you truly be confident that by tomorrow night the world is going to be a radically better world, which is what Mashiach is about, without a miracle? Looking at the headlines, looking at the world today, how long will it take for this world to become moral again? A few generations? 10 years? 2 years? Not tomorrow. Look at what has happened just in this month. Before October 7th, before Simchas Torah in Israel, what was happening? Do you remember? It seems like so long ago. There were protests in the streets of Tel Aviv and Yerushalayim, massive crowds protesting the policy of the Supreme Court, that the democracy should work this way or should work that way, and it was tearing the country apart. Night after night after night, and this was... Then October 7 happens, and all of a sudden, nobody even remembers what the issue was, because it seems so petty. Here's really what we're seeing, current events. The big choice in life is not what will it take, what is the best method for achieving our goals. Isn't that what motivates everybody in everything? You sit and think, I need to get to a certain achievement, to a certain How will I get there most efficiently, most economically? How do I pay off my bills? How do I get my... And you look for the options of... In other words, we are motivated by our needs. Our needs drive us to act. And the question is only, what's the best way of getting what I need? There's another possibility, and that is, what I need, it's so uninteresting. It's so petty. I mean, imagine if I could have everything I need. How much better would the world be? Well, for me, but besides me, the world will not be better. So thinking of what I need seems like a real waste of energy. Even spiritually, if I was vastly improved spiritually, what would that do for the world? Very, very little. Instead, I wake up in the morning and I'm thinking, what can I do to make the world better? That seems to be like a worthy objective and a worthy cause. There's a big world out there. What can I do to make the world better? What happened October 7th was that overnight, the entire world went from how do I get what I need to what can I do to serve? The entire Jewish world, amazingly, everyone wants to do something to help. What is their personal need? Who talks about that? It's not even interesting. Who has time for that? What I need, got to do something for the cause, for Israel. We're so desperate to do something for Israel, we'll do it even if Israel doesn't want it. That is, people are sending money to Israel, and Israel is saying, we don't need money. We need your prayers. Well, I don't have prayers, I have money. Take money. And we feel like we're doing something for the cause. This is a major shift in the direction of Mashiach. How does a world become good? When everybody is thinking, how do you make the world good? Why hasn't it become good until now? Because nobody thought that. Nobody. Everybody was thinking, how do I make my life better? Sometimes physically, sometimes spiritually. But it was all about me, my immediate family, the people who matter most to me. That's gone. Now, you look at the world beyond the Jewish world. All the millions of people all over the world protesting in favor of Palestinians or Hamas. Everywhere, in every country, masses of people marching the streets, carrying banners, screaming, shouting. What is it? How is it their problem? They don't even know how to spell Palestine. They've never been to Palestine. They don't even know what the issues are. But they need to do something for the cause. They've got their own problems. I wish I could get up at one of these big rallies and they're all, furious and they're foaming at the mouth about free Palestine. I want to get up and say, who's making dinner? Why don't you go home and make dinner? But you have nothing to do. You're neglecting your job. You're neglecting your family. What are you doing this for? Why? And even there, they don't care whether it's effective or not. They feel like they're doing something. So it doesn't matter who's right and who's wrong. I can't just sit home. I got to be part of something bigger. This is very, very encouraging. Because if this lasts beyond the particular issue, we're going to have a very good world, and it happened overnight. The world went from being needy to wanting to be needed. Everyone wants to be needed. What I need, boring, depressing, unimportant. That is Mashiach. And look how the Rebbe was ahead of his time on this one also. In 67, the Rebbe knew, he actually stated it publicly, that Israel is going to have a fantastic victory. And that means that people are going to be very inspired. And for 2 weeks, the world was godly. The whole world. Everyone was talking about the miracle, the chosen people, the Holy Land. In 6 days, you defeat 3 armies. And the Jews, of course, were all running around thanking God and being grateful for the miracle. It lasted about 2 weeks. After 2 weeks, you started hearing from the generals and from the politicians, our army is so well trained, we're so good, we have the greatest spy network, we know in advance what's happening, we're on top of everything, we got everything under control, and all of a sudden God was forgotten. The Rebbe knew that would happen. So immediately after the war, the Rebbe launched the first Mitzvah campaign, the Tefillin campaign. Take advantage of the inspiration that's going to happen and don't let it dissipate. Don't let it fade. Capture it. Connect it to an act, to a mitzvah. So that people years later will say, yeah, I started putting on tefillin because of the war and the victory and the miracle. It was an uphill battle. Asking people who never put on tefillin to put on tefillin? It seemed like an impossible task. I remember on the Sunday, just before the war, we knew it was coming, right? We got into a truck, a step-in truck, parked in Manhattan on the street to ask people to put on tefillin. It was so uncomfortable. It was so awkward. It was so unheard of. You just walk over to somebody, excuse me, would you like to put on tefillin? In the street? It was really awkward. But right next door, next to the truck, a couple of teenagers came out with an Israeli flag, like an Olympic-size Israeli flag. And they were holding it horizontal, 4 corners, and people were throwing in money. Within a half hour, the entire surface was covered with money. The inspiration, at that time it was the fear, the anticipation. Before the miracle, everyone was so aware, so awake. Look what happened this time. The soldiers demanding tefillin. They didn't have to be urged, they didn't have to be convinced, they didn't have to be bribed with promises that this will help and this will. Every soldier wanted to have tefillin. Couldn't keep up with the demand. They also wanted to have tzitzis, which I don't know who encouraged that. Who even suggested it? Can't keep up with the demand. So the Rebbe actually launched this change in attitude in 1967. So this is really the success of the Rebbe's campaign. That you don't have to ask, they'll ask. There's a television show. It's a talk, whatever. There were four anchors or spokespeople, and they talk about the news and about it. So anyway, the main guy, who is not at all religious, you can see his shaved head, and he is marveling. This was like 3 weeks ago. He is marveling at how spiritual everyone has become in Israel. Every soldier is thanking God and relying on God with God's help, Baruch Hashem, and everybody's talking about God, and they all want to put on tefillin. And he's not critical or cynical, which you would expect. He's marveling. The other guy says, yes, I noticed that too. In fact, some of my friends are becoming religious, becoming dati. And the main guy says, no, it's not that zelo dati. It's not religious, it's tefillin. Which is so correct. People getting religious, it's a mixed bag. Getting religious can be an improvement or an insanity or a desperation. And 2 weeks later, it's like, okay, forget it. This guy was really insightful. It's not becoming religious. It's tefillin. Jews want to put on tefillin. Oh, why? Are they becoming religious? No. Well, then why? Something has shifted. Jews are comfortable being Jewish. That's what it is. We've always said, our enemy come at us with horses and chariots, and we respond with the name of God. And we win. That's if you're comfortable being Jewish. If you're assimilated, you think, well, if they have a horse and a chariot, well, we better have 2 horses and 2 chariots. In other words, we're taking a cue from them to figure out what it takes to win. So if horses and chariots are what help you win, then we better have a bigger horse, a bigger chariot. No, we don't depend on horses and chariots. We put on tefillin. That's not religious. That's Jewish. You do what you do, we do what we do. And we'll win because we're right, not because our horses are bigger. This is very, very encouraging. We are far better off today than we were a month ago. As a nation, as a people, So the question really is, of course we're going to win against Hamas. That's a foregone conclusion. First of all, we have to. There's no option about that. And we're going to. I mean, what are they after all? Not even a country, not even a people. They're just a mob. So yeah, they're finished. Now what? Are we content? No. The world needs to be fixed, not Hamas. Hamas needs to be destroyed, And once they're destroyed, the rest of the world may be fixable. But the objective is make the world godly. That's been our job since we received the Torah. For 3,000 years, we are the light to the world to make the world godly. Now, for a long time, we couldn't do much because anytime we opened our mouth, somebody shot us. So we weren't about to run around telling people what to do. But now, especially after the defeat of Hamas, the world is going to listen. And we have the attention of the world, which is something of a miracle. Tiny little country, minding our own business, and the whole world is focused on us. Again, they have nothing else to do. They don't have their own problems to worry about. We are in the spotlight, and we have the microphone, and the world is listening. What should we say to the world? This is a big responsibility. Killing Hamas is just a dirty task that we have to do. But the real job is, what do you say to the world? We are the Jewish people. We speak to the world in the name of God. What do we say? What we've been saying? We have a right to defend ourselves. Every kid in the playground says that. Not fair. It was mine. Of course you have a right. Don't say that. Don't state the obvious as if it was some kind of a deep insight. Of course you have a right to defend yourself. Not a right. An obligation. What else do we say to the world? We're the only democracy in the Middle East. Stop saying that. That's what they hate about you. Why do you keep saying that? Nobody wants a democracy in the Middle East. And by the way, what's so great about a democracy? Are we doing so well with our democracy here? A democracy without the Ten Commandments is a disaster. In many ways, worse than a communist system. Democracy without morality is the most dangerous thing in the world. I'm not advocating communism, but it is safer to walk the streets of China. There's no democracy in China. So the only reason democracy works is if it's practiced by people who believe in the Ten Commandments. So they're not going to murder, and they're not going to steal, and they're not going to commit adultery, and they're not going to be jealous, and they're not going to be blasphemous, and they're going to be nice to their parents because of the Ten Commandments, not because it's a democracy. And that's why when you corrupt a democracy, it's, hey, this is a democracy. I can do what I want. What do you mean I can't kill? What happened to my democracy? So as long as the Americans were Bible-based, democracy was fantastic. Now that God has been taken out of the picture, democracy is a disaster. So to say we're a democracy, it's so meaningless. And we've been saying it for 70 years and nobody has reacted positively yet. So maybe we should try something else. This is the really serious issue of the day. Israel is now in the center of attention, and the world is hoping to hear something real, something true, something that only Jews can say. It's a big challenge. But it's not only Israel, it's every Jew in the world. The focus is not just on Israel, the focus is on Jews, sometimes negatively. But it just proves the answer has to come from us. So what should we tell the world? What should we tell our neighbors? The Rebbe said this a long time ago. Secular education without values is dangerous. If your kid is not committed to the Torah's commandments, don't send them to college. It's dangerous. And we didn't understand. What's dangerous? What's wrong with a nice liberal arts education? Now we see. The worst, most immoral people are professors at the universities and their students. That's shocking. The other shocking thing is religious people are the most intolerant, the most immoral, and they do it in the name of God. Now, this is a major crisis because for many, many years, we relied on two sources for morality. Where do you get morality? How do you know right from wrong? The first answer was from religion. And the second was from education. If you educate people, they become decent. Uneducated people are monsters. So during World War II, we discovered that educated people, the Germans were very educated, sophisticated people who produced great musicians, great philosophers, great society, great cars, were more monstrous than the simple, uneducated people. The message didn't sink in. And we continued to believe that if you educate people, they'll be better. Now we find out Bin Laden was a very educated guy. Well, what happened? He was radicalized, whatever that means. It's a silly word. What we saw October 7th, the barbaric behavior of people who are educated and religious. They chanted God's name as they were. So the crisis now is both of our sources for morality have turned out to be disasters. What do we do now? You remember when the big issue, the big question was, who is supposed to teach morality? The family or the school? The school said, the family. The family said, the school. And nobody taught morality. Now all of a sudden the schools want to teach morality. And it's worse. So, where do we go? We, meaning the world. There is no morality, none. Even where there isn't immorality, there is no morality. It's neutral. So at any moment, any society, anywhere in the world, any country, can turn monstrous. It's not just Hamas. And we know this because the whole world is supporting them to a greater or lesser degree. They're not horrified. The world is not horrified. Oh, yes, we condemn, yeah. But they're not horrified. So, guess what? The focus is on us. We're the only ones left with a morality. So what should we say to the world? First thing we should say to the world is, we are the chosen people. We tried to deny it. You didn't buy it anyway. You might as well just come forward with it. There was actually an incident on a campus. There was a very vile protest, pro-Palestinian protest on this campus. And people were standing there shocked and helpless until finally one professor, a Jewish professor, who was known, famous on the campus for being an atheist. He was a very proud atheist. He lost his cool and he started screaming and criticizing this ugliness and this. The police arrested him for his own safety. Maybe. Would have been a good idea anyway, because that mob was. So the next day, he comes to class to teach his class. A student comes over to him and hands him a bouquet of flowers. He says, "What is this?" The student says, "I was just so proud of what you did yesterday. Your courage to stand up and say the truth. I just had to get you these flowers." So the professor says, "You're Jewish?" Obviously, she didn't look Jewish. He said, "You're Jewish?" She says, "No." He says, "So why are you proud?" She says, It was just so inspiring to see the chosen people acting chosen." So the professor says, "You know I don't believe that. Oh, chosen people business." And the student said, "Whether you believe it or not, we know it's true." They know it's true. Some of them love it, some of them hate it, but they all know it's true. And when we make like we never heard of it, makes them very suspicious. Like, why are you lying? What do you think you're doing? You think you're fooling us? We read the Bible. So it's time to come forward. Yes, we are the chosen people. So a little respect. That would make such a huge improvement in the whole world. Because, the world needs a chosen people. So throughout history, there were different nations and different religions who claimed to be the chosen people, and they're not. But there's a need for a chosen people, right? There's a need for someone who was there at Mount Sinai who can tell the world what God does or doesn't want. Well, at this point in history, there are no other candidates anymore. So we are the chosen people. That's got to be our first response. If somebody says, "Wow, you really destroyed Hamas," yes, because we're the chosen people. You got to say that. What does it mean to be the chosen people? It means we have a responsibility to transmit God's message to the world. So if you want to know what God said, ask me. Now in the stores where they have the The workers have buttons saying, ask me. Ask me. That's number one. Number two, our message to the world is stop thinking about your needs because you didn't create the world. Think about God's needs because He created the world. So if you want to do something to improve the world, be aware whose world you're improving. You want tikkun olam? By all means. Whose olam are you tikkuning? It makes a difference. I got to share with you this joke. The atheist says to God, we used to need you because we were so helpless. But now we have technology, we don't need you anymore. We can do anything you can do. And by the way, that is a definition of an atheist. An atheist is not someone who denies there's a God. Atheists are those who believe they are God. Right? Actually, there was a bumper sticker. I used to be an atheist, then I realized I'm God. Anyway, so the atheist says to God, we don't need you anymore, we have technology. So God says, really? Can you make a man out of dust? He says, yeah. God says, show me. So he starts gathering up some dust. And God says to him, no, not my dust. Make a man out of your dust. Oh, we can't make dust. So you want to fix the world? You want tikkun olam? Whose olam? Whose world are you fixing? So, message number one. Yes, we are the chosen people. We have to do that. Otherwise, we have no authority to preach at anybody. Oh, they're bad. They use human shields. Where is it written that you can't use human shields? What gives us the authority to sound so moral? We're the chosen people. Listen up. That's the first thing. Second thing is, what is God's message to the world? God's message to the world is, in the beginning I created heaven and earth. Can you clean up the earth for me? For me, I'm the creator. It's my world, and no one is more concerned with the world than I am. So the task is to clean up God's world so that it's His kind of world. After all, He's the creator. And number three, how do you clean up the world? Stop thinking about your needs and figure out how and where God needs you. Don't be needy, be needed. That's it. That is the entire recipe for Mashiach. In fact, people say, if we did that, why would we need Mashiach? That would be so perfect. Why do we need Mashiach? We need Mashiach because when the world is perfect, we won't know what to do. If there are no problems, we don't know how to function. So Mashiach is going to have to teach us a whole new way of breathing. We breathe problems. When there are no problems, So the Torah today, as we learn it, sounds like, okay, this is how you fix this problem, this is how you get rid of that evil, this is how you avoid this. What are we going to do when there's no evil? Studying the same Torah. So Mashiach is going to show us how the Torah is read and understood when there are no problems. That's our whole new education. We need to be re-educated. That's Mashiach's main job. To teach, not to fight wars. Anyway, enough said. We are on the verge of a great victory, not against Hamas. That's not just putting out rat traps. No, we're on the verge of a huge change. People are now spontaneously looking for the answer. Who needs me? What can I do to help? My problems? Petty. Not interesting. So we got to tell the world what they can do to help. With the authority of a chosen people. What do you think?
I'm making a poster for my classroom with "Don't be needy, be needed." I love that.
Or you're not needy, you are needed. If you enjoyed this conversation or this topic, and you're looking for more information, or you want to hear it again from another angle, there's a way to do that. And that is in this book. It's all there. Order it from Amazon. You can read it, reread it, and share it.